Guys, what happened? What happened in that video? Like, that video went just as well as a snowman in a sauna. It just did not work out. Like, dude, like, go to the comment section. I got lit up like a blunt in the comment section. Like, look, take a look at this. Bro's brain works just as fine as Sleepy Joe's. 5 likes from 809 views is crazy. Most sane Logan Paul apologist. You aware they edited that out to make him look worse? This dude makes no sense. Horrid take on this. This is some seriously bozo take. Left-hard double standard. Let's remember Trump. What do you mean they shouldn't have spoken about this publicly? Clearly it was time they shed some more light on how shit of a human Logan is. What the f, man? But then again, I'm also used to it because oftentimes I upload a video with a take that a lot of people don't like because it challenges, at least I believe it challenges their view. And so they'll leave comments down below that resonate like these comments. But anyways, I want to go ahead and clarify what I meant, just in case you guys did not understand what I meant, because almost everybody disagreed in that video with me. So allow me to explain to you guys why is it that I thought that this was an absolutely terrible idea. And I think that this should have been kept behind doors, but unfortunately George ended up letting it loose. So the first reason as to why I believe this was an absolutely terrible idea from George is because podcasts are not a good place to explain what happened in a work environment, because you're just riffing, you're just talking out the mouth with no receipts. And now I'm sure that you guys have seen the video of Logan Paul coming out with his video and showcasing receipts. Now George Janko is pressured to respond, and this is quite unfortunate for him because now he's under the pressure of the public to respond, because a lot of people are calling him out for potentially lying.
But then, so he tried to expose Logan and said, oh, he never paid me for years. In fact, I spent my own money being on this show. And then Logan put out a video with receipts. It's very good. And Logan came with some pretty juicy receipts. So George is going to have to respond, and quick, hopefully while we're live.
And then here's the instance where Ethan calls George a liar.
Logan kind of slam dunk that video. George is a liar, dude.
And he's not the only one that feels like that. Believe it or not, even in the comment section of Logan Paul's video on TikTok, there are people, numerous people, talking about how, oh, you know, this got me switching sides. Oh, I didn't know that George was a liar. This one reads, got me switching sides a bit. And then the responses down below, nah, for real though. Same. A bit? For real. This one reads, best response I've seen, and it has about 9,000 likes, which supports my reasoning in that last video about that he should have never came out, because he came out and now look, people are switching sides, which tells you that George, he didn't really make a compelling argument at all. Like, he did not support his thesis with any evidence. He just came out, said everything, and there was no support to it. As a matter of fact, Cavos, who ended up doing the supporting for him, I think it was a decent video, but I understand Cavos, he can only do so much because he's not there. He doesn't have the evidence, but he's trying his best to decipher the language that was spoken there. Honestly, I don't think it's worth the while to try to decipher it, because oftentimes George was just contradicting himself. Of course, even Cavos noticed it.
But in that clip, George was specifically talking about the moment after he got fired. I would admit I was also confused listening that George said he got fired, because he has said on his own podcast and before that he quit, he didn't get fired. Not sure if that was a slip in the moment because he was heated talking to Mike or what, but I will say he did contradict himself there.
Ethan Klein was also perplexed by the incredible complexities that is of George's vocabulary.
George said, I didn't get paid for a long time.
Says I didn't get paid anything.
And Mike said, neither did I.
Yeah, I don't know what the f they talking about.
So what?
He said didn't he say it took a while for him to get paid?
Yeah. Okay, well
Logan said on the 15
right.
months he was on the show, he showed it. No, yeah, 15 months he was on the show.
Right.
And you see it there.
And just like an episode of Dragon Ball Z, find out to the next episode, because they never figured it out. But I mean, it's kind of expected, because again, George, he didn't exactly prepare. And that's not the only thing. He was also very confusing with a lot of other points that he made and contradicted himself, which I'm going to get to the contradiction because it's probably the biggest one. But another confusing point was that he thought that Mike never backed him up.
Mike, your actions hurt me every day.
But what actions?
The fact that you would stand up for me on camera and then as soon as it cuts being like, I'm going to look so good that I stood up for you. There was intentions behind it, bro.
That
you never cared.
Oh, so you're now saying that a
I'm
joke.
not the only one even thought that.
You're saying now that a joke that I made, which we would always tie comedy in with real life, a joke that I made after standing up for you a million times on a million fucking episodes, now completely discounts all the times I did.
Mike has been backing you up for like a year and a half. The first time I remember him backing you up was back on the Island Boys podcast, where the Island Boys, they got in your face, and Mike, he was there trying to understand the situation when Logan was trying to just move the show forward and didn't want to talk about the incident. Mike brought it back and said, no, I think it's important that we talk about this, because George, he just ended up facing off with the Island Boys. He's had your back for almost a year and a half. So it's crazy to me that George would just kind of default to this mindset of, oh, it was all for show. Mike never really had my back. Like, come on, man. No, that's not fair, dude, because he's had your back for a year and a half. Now, before I get into the Bobby Lee topic, which is another contradiction, this is why I suggested that George, it was best just to keep it behind closed doors, because, dude, you, like, come on, man. Like, now that you've brought it out to light, it's a mess. You didn't prepare for it at all. And now you're in this mess where now you're under public scrutiny and they're expecting you to respond. And here's the thing. And this is, and as I presented all of this, now George has to pick up a lot of pieces because he has to prove a lot of what he said. Do you think that he's going to be able to prove it? I don't know. And the worst part is that Logan already made a response video like that. Do you know why? Because unlike George, who probably most likely doesn't have a team to accumulate all of this evidence, Logan does. He ended up paying, most likely he ended up paying people to accumulate all of this evidence, this dossier that he had for George, and presented it in a very effective manner. George, on the other hand, based off of what I've seen on this podcast, it does not seem like he's prepared for this at all. I mean, just compare CoffeeZilla versus Logan Paul. CoffeeZilla, he knows how to be very effective and he knows how to corner the people that he's going after. He cornered Logan Paul, you know? And George does not have that same capability. At least based off of the impression that I've gotten so far, it doesn't really seem like he has that capability to foresight or even present information in a very effective manner. Another issue is that nobody would have been speculating about who Logan Paul is or even George Janko, because now people are calling George a liar. People are switching sides, and this wouldn't have happened if you would have just talked to Logan one-on-one behind the scenes. And remember, it's not just the scrutiny of the public. Now you're pressured to respond, and you got to respond fast too, because when it comes to social media, you only have a couple of days before you lose the audience that was interested in what you had to say. Now let's go ahead and talk about the Bobby Lee topic, because I believe that this is probably the most important one of all the contradictions. So he contradicts himself and says that at first he's saying like, oh, you know, that he was harassed, essayed.
He started the episode putting his balls in my face. I let that one go. Then every 2 seconds he kept grabbing my dick.
I don't think...
How would you feel if a man that has his back completely towards you, that only turns around to grab your dick,
right,
talk to your face, and you can't smack or beat the living brakes off of this guy? So while I get harassed, my other co-host is trying to fire me, and you're trying to leverage me to be quiet during other guests.
But then towards the end, he's all like, I'm not mad at you. Like, I understand that that's your sense of humor. You know, like, I get it. I get it.
Bobby, if you're which you are watching, I know you're watching. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you because I know who you are, bro. I know you're using comedy to get out of an uncomfortable situation. I know you're just messing around me. I know even you, when you were grabbing my dick, you weren't doing it because you're like, oh, I want to harass this kid. I know you were doing it because you're a comedian, you're being fun.
George, which one is it? Did he SA you or is it just a joke? Because if he SA'd you, then I think it's important that you come out, because he could potentially be doing this to other people. And those other people probably aren't brave enough to come out. You've already opened that door because you stated it. So I think it's important that you come out if he did. However, if he didn't, why did you use the word SA? That word is specifically loaded with a lot of emotion, and you could potentially ruin someone's reputation if that's the case. But I mean, let's be real though, man. Like, you know, when you type up, you know, Bobby Lee nude or whatever the case is, he's always going nude on some of those shows, man. I don't know, dude. Honestly, I used to look at it as like, you know, that's just him joking around. I never saw it as SA until George brought it up. And even when I did watch that podcast, I remember watching that podcast. I don't know why, but like it never occurred to me that it was SA. I was just thinking like, you know, this is just Bobby Lee. So the fact that George brought it up, it it opened me up to a new perspective. Now I'm like, oh crap, like, you know, if he feels like that, then most likely other people feel like that. So George, if you really do feel like this was SA, step up, bro. Don't pull back. Don't try to be diplomatic in this instance, you know, because this is potentially big. Now, before I end the video, I want to go ahead and say that even though Logan Paul came out with a very effective video, a very punchy video, and with receipts, I would still be very cautious of the narrative that he is speaking, because Logan Paul, he's very good at persuading people, and he uses a lot of careful rhetoric to make sure that he can paint himself in a good light. And I mean, it's kind of easy to determine that he's kind of doing that if you just implement a fundamental social psychological principle, which is, you know, social judgment theory. And you can see that he's using latitudes of acceptance to just kind of not go too far into the unrealism and paint himself in a very unrealistic way. He's very tame when it comes to how he talks about himself. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more videos in the future. Just be very careful with him, okay? As far as when it comes to George is just very emotional, and you know, he was not being careful at all when it came to, you know, speaking about Logan and speaking about the situations that he's faced. I would caution George to be very careful and to make sure that he plans, because from this point forward, if he really wants to expose Logan Paul, he has to take cautious measures. He has to, man, because it can potentially be slanderous if he's not doing it correctly. So anyways, I want to go ahead and leave it there, guys. That's pretty much all I have for you guys, and yeah, hopefully you guys learned something today.